Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is Election Edge, Tuesday's edition, 6 o'clock on the East Coast, 3 o'clock out west. And I have a very special guest, Gary Voris of Souls and Liberty is going to be joining me today. And Gary, boy, do we have a lot of questions that have come as a result of a second Trump assassination. Welcome to Election Edge. Happy to have you as my guest today.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Mark, and God bless you, your crew, and all of your viewers. We're in this to save Western civilization, ultimately, right? So God bless you for all of your work.
You know, it's interesting, Gary, that is not hyperbole. I mean,
No.
On both sides of this election feel that the side that doesn't win is that it's over for them. And unfortunately, you hate signaling out two individuals and blaming an entire party. But the reality, Gary, is the rhetoric in this situation, in this campaign, it literally is over the top, and that's not hyperbole at all. I mean, we've seen Donald Trump referred to as Hitler. He's been referred to as anti-democratic. The country will never be the same. I mean, every insult you could possibly make. People have used an analogy of put a bullet in him, and that comes straight from the top. Biden and Harris at times over the past few years. Gary, what do you make of this? Because again, this is two times in 2 months now, and thank goodness that whether it was good luck or good security, I'm not sure which, but we still have Donald Trump with us.
Yeah, I'd have to say, first of all, when Trump and patriots are using brash rhetoric, which we do, and it is true. I mean, I have no problem saying, because it's true, that the left, the communists, which is who these people ultimately are, their father is the devil. Their entire existence is based on lies. Political existence is based on lies. And as the Son of God said, there is no truth in him. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. So while some people might say that's kind of over the top rhetoric, I actually happen to think it's right on the mark. It's not over the top, it's on the mark. The difference, however, when we talk like that is you don't see anybody trying to kill Kamala. When they talk like that, because they have no moral guardrails, they kill children. They kill children by the millions, tens of millions. They have no moral guardrails. So, and not everybody who's a follower in a political party is created equally. Some are more emotionally unstable, et cetera, than others. And when they hear this kind of talk, their side, because they have no guardrails, they start to try to go on a killing spree. I mean, we saw that in the summer of 2020 with all of the riots, all of it. And then all of the, Maxine Waters and Kamala and all the rest of them, burn everything down, go to the streets, all of them, Joy Reid, the whole lot of them. And until we understand, and by we, I mean patriots, and particularly people who at least claim to follow Jesus, until we understand the people on the other side of the table and understand them for who they are not a party as opposed to this party, which has the same goals, and we're just arguing about and differentiating ourselves on how to reach those goals. Like, we need to do something with taxes. Should it be 5% or we think it should be 4%? That's not what's going on. This is a conversation between life and death. And the other side wants us dead. And I don't understand why so few people on our side, I mean, number of people on social media, certainly, but, on the day-to-day, people are, oh, that's just a crazy, that. Yeah, no, look at some of the comments in social media. I mean, thousands of comments in social media. Oh, I'm sorry he missed. Oh, that's another one. Oh, gosh, when are we going to get somebody who can actually do the job? I mean, these are the sorts of things being said. And then they turn around and blame it on Trump. It's his over-the-top rhetoric. Well, he may have over-the-top rhetoric. I actually don't think he's quite strong enough, if you want my personal opinion. But he comes out and says what he needs to say. and they try to, shoot him and kill him twice now for that. And they don't care. I mean, this was barely a story. The first one buried after, 2 days, 3 days? As soon as the Republican convention began, we just kind of all forgot about it, went down the memory hole. This one, I don't even think even surfaced really on the radar. I was like, oh, did it again, been there, done that. It's beyond the pale. They want you dead. You understand that? Americans, actual Americans, because I don't believe the other side are Americans. They may have been born here, and that's where the line ends. They want you dead, Americans. They want your children perverted. They want you thrown into camps. We just did a show this morning playing back some of Hillary and Kamala's comments about re-education camps, about how some of the things, the misinformation, of course, they're the debaters and deciders of what constitutes misinformation, and normally that's the truth from their perspective. Hillary's sitting right there and played the soundbite out of her own mouth, saying, well, this is at least civil and, might even rise to the level of criminal. Remember, there's a guy sitting in prison for posting a meme, a ha-ha meme about Hillary in the 2016 election. He's sitting in jail for it, for, campaign interference. Give me a break.
Well, Gary, speaking of Hillary Clinton, she literally put gasoline on the fire after this second assassination attempt. She clearly came out and said Trump is a threat to democracy. I mean, it's fueling these crazy left-wingers. And this is not your mom or dad's Democratic Party. As we've said before, this Biden administration, it makes the Obama administration look moderate, and it makes the Clinton administration look damn well conservative. But Gary, I mean, it's really outlandish, because when I saw the media blaming Trump for his own potential assassination, I'm thinking, when does it stop? How much over the top can it possibly get? And yet, here we are, and it continues. For political leaders such as, former Secretary of State Clinton, who still has a bone up her, who ticked off at Trump over the 2016 election, for her to come out and just reinforce the negative, and Gary, I don't know what the percentage is, but I've heard it's up to 1/3 of the people on social media have targeted, basically saying they wish Trump had been hit. I mean, I don't think this stops, because there is a distinct difference here, folks, because, again, I say it before, not your parents' Democratic Party, Gary. And I think that, with 49 days to go in this campaign, thank goodness that there was a sharp Secret Service agent spotted that barrel. But Gary, there's a lot more questions than answers at this point. I mean, and the one I'm trying to get my arms around, maybe you could shed some light on it, because I know you did a show earlier this morning. How in the world could that shooter have known that Trump was going to be going to that golf course? Those plans were not announced, and yet there he sat for 12 hours. And I'm quite familiar with this area. I've been by it 100 times. You've got a lot of trees, a lot of shrubbery, a lot of bushes that go and hide the golf course. But Gary, that is a troubling situation, where an unannounced golfing game, and somehow this shooter had access to it.
Yeah, I think there's a number of, I don't think there are a number of questions. Let's go back to, here's a fellow, Ralph, who's sitting on a plane coming from Hawaii to Florida. He clearly wasn't transporting his rifle and his bulletproof vests and all of that on the plane. So he lands in Florida. Even before he gets to the golf course, there's a host of questions. He's got a felony record for having a machine gun, actually. That's on his criminal record, which is public, so he's a felon. How did he get to Florida and purchase or get these weapons? This weapon, the rifle, the scopes, all of that. He rented a car. Where did he stay? Did he just get off the plane, go straight to the car, rent the car at the airport? Was the car even rented? I mean, that's a question. I don't know. I mean, some of this stuff will come out hopefully in Governor DeSantis's Florida investigation. And good for him, by the way, for saying, we're going to do our own investigation. Screw you, FBI. We don't trust you, which is essentially what he said. But a whole bunch of questions. I mean, I'm an investigative journalist. That's what my career was forever, since I was 21, actually. Used to work on 60 Minutes, actually. No great glory job, just a broadcast associate, but you still sit around and soak up the air and the atmosphere. And you ask questions, just detailed, get down to it questions. When he got off the plane, what happened next? Did he rent a car or was he given a car? If he was given a car, his vehicle, who gave it to him? Did somebody supply it to him and all of that stuff was in it already? Or did he rent a car or somebody supplied him a car and then he went and got that stuff? Where did he get that stuff from? And then he goes to where does he go? Directly to the golf course and then lay in the grass or under the shrubs and in the bushes for 12 hours? I mean, they pinged his phone to that point that this guy's laying in the shrubbery here, hiding in the bushes, so to speak, for 12 hours. Well, go back a little further on the ping. When did he land? What happened? Where did he go? Where's the car? Where'd the weapons come from? I mean, yeah, you can buy all of that stuff, but how did he get it? Did he have Amazon or somebody? Did he buy all that stuff through some club of some sort and it got delivered somewhere and then he went and picked it up there? I think all of those sorts of things. I mean, we know what he did. He laid in the bushes, had his barrel out, and was ready to go. When Trump got in his sights again, as you said, thank God, there's a snap to it. Johnny on the spot, personal Trump detail SS guy there. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of questions even before he gets to the shrubs. Once he gets to the shrubs, we pretty much know everything at that point. He ran in the thing, he ran away, the cops, the SS agent shot at him, they've got him, all of that, all of the information. Why was Facebook so fast to try to erase all of his identity within 5 minutes? The glory of social media is the internet, nothing ever dies. And some people are faster on the let me download everything button before Facebook goes to the delete button. So we've got all of this. He made, $4 billion, donations to Act Blue, the Democrats' fundraising thing. He's got Kamala bumper sticker, all of that. I want to know all of that stuff beforehand because I think that is sort of the tell of the story. He's a crazy Democrat who has done all of this other stuff, and he's laying in the bushes. But it's not like that's the beginning of it. Why did he pick the day he picked? Why did he fly in that day? Why not a week ago? Why not, 4 days later? I mean, Trump's on a vacation rest, so to speak, out golfing. Did he know that in advance? Not just that he was, let me back up. Trump goes to Mar-a-Lago to rest. Whether he's going to play golf or not, well, he probably will. It's his golf course and all that. But even that, how did he know when that was going to happen? Well, that's a question. But did he know in advance that Trump was actually taking a break, just a breather to rest up for a couple of days? He could have known that, I suppose, through the news media. But when did he book the flight? All of these kinds of little things, those minor details, well, minor only in that they're very simple. It's just a yes or no. Did he book it on Thursday? Whatever. There's not much to explore there, but they begin to lay the groundwork for the larger story. And that larger story is not how was he there knowing that Trump was going to be there? How did he get everything set up to get to that point? Then the next question is, was he just hanging out? Was it just kind of dumb luck? I mean, to hang out for 12 hours, obviously got cover of darkness, to be able to do all of that. But there's a lot of setup questions to this. And I actually haven't heard anybody ask them at all. I'm all over these stories all over the time. It's what I do for a living, like yourself, constantly reading and talking to people and the whole bit. I haven't even heard these questions be asked. And I think they're really the tell of the story. How did he know? When did he buy the ticket? What does he do for a living? How much is a plane ticket from Honolulu, to Florida? I mean, does he have that kind of money? What about his bank accounts? Were people giving him money? Is there mysterious things? There's a money in, money out. I mean, they did all that stuff with, Crooks and Butler, and he's had these overseas accounts and things. Why is he in a video for BlackRock the same way Thomas Crooks was? Different video, but both from BlackRock. There's a lot of weirdness here, and I think it would be a little misdirected from kind of like an investigative journalist or a cop perspective to say, how did he get there? And how did he know in those bushes that Trump was going to come around? I think that's a legitimate question, but I'm asking even more antecedent questions. How did he even get there to begin with?
Yeah, those are great questions, every one of them. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm thinking, boy, 60 Minutes missed an opportunity. They should have had you doing this investigative piece back when you were in your... But you're right. I'm not trying to, those are exceptionally good points, Gary, and that's, again, one of the reasons we have you on, because, you can talk about things, and those are great questions, and, I'll sit here and admit it on television. Some of these questions I have not heard asked by reporters on the ground. And again, I'm quite familiar with that area. I mean, it's a very short drive from Mar-a-Lago to Trump's golf course there. I've seen it many, many times.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about a little bit more on the other side of the break. But Gary, those are gigantic trees. And from reports I'm hearing, he'd actually set up like a little sniper's nest inside there.
Yes.
And again, if you're 300 to 500 yards away with the weapon he had, that's been characterized as a layup putt. All right, we're a little past the break. We're going to take our first break here, but when we come back, we are going to dive further into. Gary had some great questions there, and we're going to dive into some of those. So we'll be back shortly.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most precious assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900.
720-605-3900, folks. That's Dr. Kirk Elliott, great friend at PatriotTV. And in these turbulent times, if you want to have a little bit of your portfolio in gold and silver, pick up the phone and call Kirk's company. They're a solid, really good gold and silver dealer, and they're part of the Patriot team. All right, Gary, you asked a lot of very good questions there. And as an investigative reporter, can you give our viewers and listeners just a little bit of your background on the show you host in the morning, a little bit about the network, because that, my friend, was a great analysis that you put forth for our viewers and listeners.
Sure. I'm involved and tied up here, so to speak, with a wonderful outfit called soulsandliberty.com. It looks at all of these kinds of current events type things and largely political, since we're in that season right now. and ties them back spiritually. Like what is going on the larger level. So the network is called soulsandliberty.com. Souls, obviously, for what you think by souls, and liberty is sort of the freedom, liber, the freedom of the soul in the material world to ultimately, using its free will to choose God. I mean, that's what our freedom is for. But when you're in the world, not everybody in the world agrees with that agenda. There are many people who, so to speak, trade their souls away for what is eternal destruction. And they don't mind, riding roughshod over you in the process and, destroying your family, your livelihood, whatever it is, that's the case. So Souls and Liberty talks about all of these kinds of things. And we see, that's the big picture. And then where do we see examples of this anywhere and everywhere? Well, ultimately, because this, what is Earth? It's, for humans, it's essentially a testing ground for us to freely choose God. The angels had the exact same testing ground, just wasn't in the material world because they're immaterial beings, but in the immaterial world, they have the same test. And Lucifer and his marauding bunch failed the test, and Michael and his victorious bunch tossed their immaterial butts out of heaven, out of the angelic realm. So the battle now happens here on Earth, and we here at soulsandliberty.com want to make sure that understanding is uppermost in people's minds, that yes, it's good to get into all of the nitty-gritty and the weeds and all of that. Absolutely. It's what I've done for 40 years as an investigative reporter, because you have to ask and think on a level that other people don't. You have to sort of think sometimes like a serial killer in order to capture a serial killer. So when you're doing all of these sorts of things, good needs to be done. What's going on? But always with your finger on that pulse, that ultimately we care about these things because ultimately they arrive at an individual's salvation or damnation. And that's why we really care about them. I mean, they're kind of fascinating just from an intellectual, maybe academic curiosity standpoint. But, why do we care about, Ralph and, his attempt to, kill Trump? Well, because the larger picture would indicate they want him dead. Well, you just keep asking questions. Just keep asking questions. And well, why would they want him dead? Well, have they thought, have they strategized out? Have they game played out what happens if he dies? And, what does that make Vance the candidate then? Well, have they game played that out? What are they thinking? What's going on? Where's the money coming from? All of these kinds of things. But ultimately, the last question is, will this outcome advance the cause of individual souls' salvation? Or will this outcome advance the cause of individual souls' damnation? That's ultimately what we care about. But we're in time and space. We're in history, and this is our moment in history. And because of these historical circumstances we are in, we must be very in touch with them, but always with an eye to what's going on the much larger thing. So feet on earth, eyes looking up to heaven, and march on.
Gary, in this political season, everything is tied into the election. I mean, it's inescapable. But on the political side of this Trump second assassination attempt here, in a surprising move, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut came out and harshly criticized the DHS, criticized the Biden administration. Apparently, there's information that they've been requesting that Mayorkas and the DHS is not providing. He came out and lambasted in a press conference earlier today the Biden administration and the DHS. I mean, that is unusual coming from, a senator on the sort of the left side like Blumenthal is. But what did you make of that? And this close to 49 days out into the election, because I mean, 2 attempts in 2 months. And it's not going to shock me if there's a third attempt. But what did you make of Blumenthal, coming out and ripping the DHS today?
Well, here's a starting point that I always have. Anybody who supports the wholesale slaughter of children, I immediately distrust. Even if they happen to be saying something correct, I mistrust their motives for saying it. They kill children, and they do it literally for a living. They kill children so they can hold on to their political power. They are modern day King Herods. So why would he be doing something like that? Well, whatever they are, his motives, they aren't because he has a good heart and a good will. He doesn't. He kills children. So why would he want the information to be out? Well, he probably, here you can get into all kinds of areas of speculation. He already knows the Republicans know it, so he wants to put a little bit of a shine on himself, and the Republicans are going to say it anyway. Maybe there's some even little itty bitty personal grievance he has against Biden or somebody in the White House and whatever, and he's just taking a dig at them, and it doesn't really matter because the Republicans are going to be saying all of this anyway. I mean, it could be very trivial. It certainly isn't a change of heart. I mean, you can't kill children by the millions, vote for the funding for it, continue it going on, all on and on and on, just, the blood everywhere from 70 million children on your hands. And all of a sudden have a change of heart politically about something. It's not possible, not unless you repent and recant and express your remorse for that, which he hasn't done. So
that's a good
why
point.
would a child killer want to think, oh, look, this is awful. Oh, the Biden administration is doing something bad. Oh, look, Mayorkas is, really? Then why didn't you vote for, why didn't you vote to accept the charges against Mayorkas for all the sex trafficking and the invasion at the border, Blumenthal? You voted to leave, to turn down the impeachment charges. So, why he might have done what he did, it doesn't mean that even if his motive is evil, which I believe it is, or at least self-serving, again, because he kills children by the tens of millions. So a self-serving motive doesn't preclude somebody from what they're saying being true and accurate, especially if he knows a whole bunch of other people standing in the room also know the truth and are about to say it anyway. So, why not? And if it sticks Biden in the eye, or there's somebody on Biden's staff he doesn't like, and he just wants to kind of, needle him or punch him or whatever. I mean, it just underscores the reality of the veracity of that report. But remember, Blumenthal and all the rest of the communists in DC and on Capitol Hill, they all know the media is going nowhere with these stories. They're not going to pursue the story. It's tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Run out the story. We got 49 days left. Run out the story. Run out the clock. There's so much stuff to report on. I don't even know where you begin. You couldn't, if all the news stopped today and there was no other news for the next 49 days, you still wouldn't have enough time to cover everything we know up to this point. We've got not one, but two assassination attempts. There are the three questions that, according to the affidavit filed in the case against ABC about the debate, three things that Kamala didn't want talking about: Joe Biden and his health, call it that, and their brother-in-law, Tony. He can't raise any questions about him. Billions of dollars being funneled out of the U.S. Department of Justice fund that Congress has no control over. Why does the U.S. Department of Justice have a fund of billions of dollars, which, by the way, is our money, that Congress has no control over? There's no accounting for it. There's nothing. Every one of those things could be a Pulitzer Prize-winning story, and the media is not going to touch them. They aren't going to.
Well, I think
she signed. She signed on to a deal saying this. It's insane.
Yeah, I think, Gary, there's more that's going to come out on this ABC debate story because, this has the potential. We always hear about the October surprises. Well, we've had a lot of August and September surprises along the way too. But I really think two things that you just brought up: the ABC piece and answers to those questions you brought up in the first segment. again, the Democratic Party doesn't want anything positive happening with Trump. And I really believe that if these stories are validated, and the ABC hasn't even denied the whistleblower story, it's one of those things that could have an effect. Bear in mind what we're talking about here, folks. 90% of voters have made their decision. We're talking about a 10% sliver in 7 swing states who will decide this election. And to the degree that that story or stories influence that 10%, that could be a big deal. All right, we're going to take our break here, mid-course break. But when we come back, Gary and I are going to talk about where the state of the rate is right now. There's been a lot of movement, some changes, and we're going to dive into that when we come back from break.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store, a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
The Donor Deck represents a groundbreaking independent crowdfunding initiative driven by patriots like you to bring back our esteemed President Donald J. Trump to office. With unwavering passion, we pledge all profits from the sale to MAGA Inc. and Fight Like a Flynn PAC. The exquisitely detailed challenge coin is a timeless collectible to be passed down to generations. It symbolizes your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. Get your Donor Deck now. Go to the Patriot.tv store and click on Donor Deck. Enjoy the magnificent artwork and scripture on each playing card, knowing our appreciation for your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. You'll get this keepsake collectible challenge coin acknowledging your support for Donald Trump's run back to the White House, and the Donor Deck of 52 exquisite playing cards, plus a beautiful display case to show your challenge coin. Go to the Patriot.tv store and get your Donor Deck now.
And we're back. I've got my Donor Deck and challenge coins right here on the desk, folks. Scroll down to Election Edge, click on it. It'll take you right to the page. Boy, these are a great set of gifts. Buy one, buy 10, buy 100 of them. It's a great thing heading into the election for you. Gary, mixed polling came out of Pennsylvania, which I've been saying for 2 months is really the key state to the election. One poll had Harris up 2 to 3 points. Another poll had Trump up by 2. Some polling in Trump's favor in North Carolina, in Georgia. I've seen a little bit of favorable polling towards Harris in Wisconsin. Michigan too tight. Arizona, some favorables towards Trump, and Nevada too tight. I mean, realistically, all 7 of those battleground states are plus or minus 1 or 2 points. So if anyone tells you they can make a call on them, don't believe them. But polling is a trend, and one trend hasn't changed, Gary. They are tight as ever. What do you make about the status of the race right now? And do you think Trump continues to outperform his polling numbers as he did in 2016 and 2020?
Yeah, I think these are all very good questions. And when you get into the area of polling specifically, it's another thing. And in addition to doing investigative work, I was also always very tied in with the political units and reporting and all of that I used to do in news as well for all those years, all those decades. And polling, just as a little plug-in, God rest his soul, there was a fellow at CBS News in 1984 in the Reagan-Mondale campaign, which is when I began my career in 83 and 84. And his name was Warren Matofsky, and he was the guy who really developed campaign polling and was the foundation, the bedrock for all of this. And I had the pleasure and information of being able to sort of learn at his feet. I was very much tied into that polling unit when I was just a young cub reporter. And polling it has taken on an entire life of its own once campaigns began to understand that polling, as much as tracking voters can actually steer voters. So that's why you sometimes see these weird outlier polls and, who was polled and when and whatever. I don't, first of all, to take an average of the polls and say, oh, Trump's up by this, or, Kamala's up by that, or whatever, Kamula, as I like to call her, Kamula, is really, it doesn't really tell you much. I mean, you get an average answer, which really isn't anything. You have to dig down and do so on a state level. And there, you start to get into the weeds of polling. And there are two outfits that I follow very closely. I personally follow very closely. One is Trafalgar, and the other is Rasmussen. And those two, because particularly Trafalgar, but Rasmussen also, they pick up their numbers always seem to be a little outlying of the average, like the Real Clear Politics average or Ipsos or YouGov or whatever. They always seem to skew a little bit more towards, in these cases, Trump. And people are like, oh, well, those are outliers. All these other polls, YouGov and New York Times and CBS News and whoever. The reason why is because of the methodology. If you don't understand the methodology of a poll, it doesn't matter what the final number says on a poll. And I'll just refresh everybody back in 2016. Remember the week before the election, ABC News, Washington Post put a poll out that said Hillary was ahead 17 points. And everybody was like, what? And then you dig down in it. It's like, wait a minute. They polled twice the number of Democrats that they just wanted that headline. Hillary kicking Trump's butt. That's all they wanted for the headline. Methodology matters. Who's being polled, where, when, how are they getting to you? And one of the things these guys do, which is why they don't release a poll every day, like everybody else seems to, is because the amount of detail that they go into. And they go to voters and they ask a question. Any of these other polls, I think this is the difference here, where I think Trump actually has the advantage. Now, whether it's going to be enough to overcome a cheat, that's a different story. That's probably a whole different show. But
separate question.
Straight up in something that would be relatively a fair election, the reason I think Trump has things to his advantage is because the people who are either not responding to the polls, you get a poll and you don't want to say Trump. So there's always this like 1.5 to 2.5 point range of polling that is hidden Trump numbers. But beyond that, that's if somebody answers the phone or does whatever it is they're doing to respond. One of the questions pollsters routinely ask is, did you vote in the last election? Did you vote in the last presidential election before that? And if you don't answer yes to both of those questions, so did you vote in 2020? They don't necessarily ask you who you voted for. They just, did you vote in 2020? Did you vote in 2016? Unless you answer yes to both of those questions, they say thank you and move on. So who's getting missed? People who don't normally vote is who's being missed. Well, those very people are the people who are ignited right now. They're the little people who don't sort of believe in politics and, they just can't, for whatever reason, going to be bothered with it or this, or they just think, oh, everybody's a cheater, a liar, or the whole bit. Those are the people, for the most part, who are Trump supporter type people. And one of the very interesting things you look at here is the further and further out you get from that pool of, I'm going to vote and be a political blah, blah, blah. The further and further out you get from that, which is a vast turnaround from election after election after election before, those people used to be Democrat voters. Now they are hardcore Trump supporters. They're the very people that came out in Pennsylvania in 2016 who had never voted, who just kind of all of a sudden showed up in the voting booths on election day and won the state for Trump by 40,000 votes. They're not counted in the polling. So I'm always dubious when I look at some of these numbers and say, oh, Harris is up by 0.2, and all that. Another thing to look at, that's one thing. Uncounted people in the polls, unaccounted for people in the polls, those people are largely Trump supporters. Will they show up and vote? Depends on how ticked they are about their gas, their groceries, their heating oil, all of that. Fracking in Pennsylvania, I don't believe anybody in Pennsylvania who cares about fracking, which is a large number of people in Pennsylvania. I don't think any of those people believe Kamala when she's like, I never said I'm against fracking. There's millions of things all over the place that say, I'm going to ban fracking on day one. She said it in the primaries in 2020. But laying aside the unaccounted for voters, then there is this other idea that when you compare the polls to where they were in, for example, 2020 and 2016, in each of those polls, in each of those battleground states at this date, Hillary was winning, and so was Biden in 2020. Hillary in 16, Biden in 20. And right now, it's like absolute neck and neck. So unaccounted for voters and the reluctance on the part of the people who do take the polls who are Trump supporters to actually say they're voting for Trump or declare themselves as I don't know or whatever. I think that is what keeps showing up in the Trafalgar polls and the Rasmussen polls, because they're looking for those people. ABC News isn't looking for those people. No, CBS isn't looking for those people. New York Times, Washington Post, they're not looking for those people. They're like, oh, yeah, look, Kamala kicking butt. Oh, look, another morning news consult. Oh, she's up by 48. Trump is dead. And if he's not, we should kill him. I mean, that's their whole championing, screaming thing going on.
Well, let me add a couple points to what you said, because everything you just said is spot on. I could not have said it better myself. But the methodology is so important. Another poll closely associated with Trafalgar, and I agree on both of those, is Insider Advantage. I think the gentleman's name that runs it's Ken Towery. Again, he is stating that Trump's got to get his message out to senior voters because some of the support he had among seniors has been weakening. So he needs to get that message out to them. And one thing that I've noticed is the advertising. You hate saying, well, presidential campaign decided by advertising. Yeah, folks, a lot of the persuadable voters, this 10% we're talking about, are persuadable. That's why they spend upwards of billions of dollars in these swing states advertising. Collectively is what I'm talking now. So, no, absolutely. The ones you mentioned are correct. And again, you cannot just say, well, Harris is up 0.2 and we've got 2% Trump voters that they don't count. What Gary said there is right. A lot of Trump voters they don't answer the phone. They don't say who they're going to vote for. There's a lot of people don't want people to know they're voting for Trump. Someone used the yard sign analogy. You walk in a certain neighborhood and they don't see any Trump yard signs, and yet people go out there and vote. So I think, Gary, one of the key pieces to this, and I've heard multiple sophisticated pollsters talk about this, you can have a lead slightly up, slightly down, but the turnout is so critical because older voters tend to turn out and vote. Younger voters, not as much on a percentage basis. But the lessons I think the Republicans and conservatives hopefully have learned, and we talk about this on almost every show, Gary, get out and vote early. Get your vote banked to where it's being counted. That way the campaign can focus their precious resource dollars on micro-targeting voters who they think will be favorable to them so that they can focus on getting those voters out. And why is it so important? I'm in your camp, Pennsylvania. In 16 out of 20 polls that have come out, Trump has led. I believe Donald Trump will win Pennsylvania. And I think he's won North Carolina twice. That's very tight. He won Georgia once, lost it once. He wins those three, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. He will be the 47th president. There is no pathway for Vice President Harris if Trump wins those three. Okay, we're at our break time. Right. When we come back, we're going to dive a little more in that, but I want to talk some international issues with Gary because some things are happening. Israel, Lebanon. Harris was talking about that in an interview with Black journalists today. It's more word salad stuff, folks. There's no substance behind it. Anyhow, we'll be back in 90 seconds and we'll talk.
Attention business owners, are you ready to advertise to millions of loyal patriots ready to buy your products or services? Here's your golden opportunity to advertise with Mark Schaftlein. When you advertise on Election Edge, you've aligned your company with a trusted voice and connected with an audience that shares your values. Mark hosts the exciting new live show that delves into every facet of the 2024 U.S. presidential election, offering insightful analysis, expert interviews, and up-to-the-minute coverage of the key events and developments throughout the election season. When you advertise on Election Edge, you're aligning your brand with integrity, loyalty, and a dedication to truth. Mark's audience is passionate, conservative, and committed to the values your business stands for. When given the choice, Mark's followers will buy your product or service over other woke companies. Don't miss this opportunity to elevate your brand with the power of Patriot TV. Reach out to us today at advertise@patriot.tv. The Donor Deck represents a groundbreaking independent crowdfunding initiative driven by patriots like you to bring back our esteemed President Donald J. Trump to office. With unwavering passion, we pledge all profits from the sale to MAGA Inc. and Fight Like a Flint PAC. The exquisitely detailed challenge coin is a timeless collectible to be passed down to generations. It symbolizes your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. Get your Donor Deck now. Go to the PatriotTV store and click on Donor Deck. Enjoy the magnificent artwork and scripture on each playing card, knowing our appreciation for your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. You'll get this keepsake collectible challenge coin acknowledging your support for Donald Trump's run back to the White House, and the Donor Deck of 52 exquisite playing cards, plus a beautiful display case to show your challenge coin. Go to the Patriot.tv store and get your Donor Deck now.
And we're back. Gary, 73% of voters want change, and they want the economy fixed, and they want illegal immigration fixed. And 58% of voters say Harris is going to be just like Biden. It was really interesting today when she did her interview with black journalist in Pennsylvania. The question came up, well, what policies would you do different than President Biden as related to Israel and the Middle East? And it was, and I hate using this term, but it was a word salad. She did not give answers. She gave the old standard, well, we need a two-state solution, we need Palestine, we need security for Israel, but no way to get there. So, yeah. Kerry, I ask you this, in light of the fact that there was 8 people killed, 2,800 people, quote, wounded by some methodology in Lebanon today with pagers blowing up in people's faces. What can you tell us about that? And what are your thoughts on Harris and the manipulation, of Democratic voters to the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party?
Well, I guess on the question of the pagers blowing up, and in case your audience isn't aware of that, Hezbollah, actors communicate with each other through or get orders or whatever you want to call it through their pager system, and the little beepers and messages come across them. Don't mess with Israeli intelligence. They know who these people are. What is a pager? It's an electronic device that has batteries and acid, just naturally part of its constituent makeup. It's programmable. That's how it's able to get a message. Well, if somehow the Israeli intelligence community can figure out how to say, hey, blow yourself up, well, that's what they did, obviously. And, as you said, a number of people died and many, many, many others were injured. Don't mess with Israeli intelligence on these sorts of things. But more to the point with Kamala, I'm surprised her answer wasn't, well, I was born in a middle-class family, and my mother was very strong, and, what's that got to do with the two-state solution? Well, but let me finish. I think that we have to talk about things that are significant, even if they're insignificant. So when we're talking about insignificant things that sound significant, but it's really not. But we don't need to say that because it's really significant to talk about insignificance. I mean, this kind of answers she gives that make absolutely zero sense. How can you have a two-state solution when the one state wants the other one gone from the river to the sea? That doesn't mean, with the exception of this little geographical, island, that's called Israel. We can skirt around that and get to the sea. So, on the one level, I mean, for the Abraham Accords that Trump was able to fashion, I don't think people quite understand the significance of that, to borrow the word significant, not so much in what it created, but in order to get some accord there. This is a thing that has been going on for almost 3,000 years. And for, the greatest minds in the world almost haven't really been able to come up with something except, well, let's just agree to not shoot each other, at least for, 3 years. That's about as good as they can get, which is about what Trump sort of got with the Abraham Accords. And of course, Biden comes in and they're like, oh, weak American, Israel's lost its big important ally, let's go. So they started planning almost immediately how they're going to do all this. And of course, it resulted in October 7th, and here we are. But Harris doesn't have a solution to this. Harris doesn't have a solution to anything. She's like, kill all the children that we can possibly kill, and let's add $35 trillion to the $35 trillion existing debt. And that's all we have to, that's my policies right there. She doesn't even understand. I don't think she probably even knows what Hezbollah is or Hamas or any of the rest of it. She doesn't understand it. Why would she? Remember her famous, when Lester Holt was interviewing her about, going to the border, and, she's like, oh, I'm going to the border. I'm going to the border. I've been to the border. Well, actually, you haven't been to the border, Madam Vice President. You haven't been to the border. Oh, I haven't been to Europe either. What's your point? The point is the thing you're in charge of, you haven't been to. And the fact that she even asked that back, I mean, again, is she really stupid? I mean, she's not stupid. She has to have some IQ. She went to, she went to law school. Granted, she didn't pass the bar the first time and had to take it again, even though in California that year, 87% of the first-time bar takers actually did pass the first time around. So, she's smart enough to get past the bar the second time around, which probably makes her a little bit more intelligent than, who knows, maybe some portion of the US public. But she has figured out that, she's come in here, she was part of the coup with Obama and Nancy. They held Joe's feet to the fire, threatened him with the 25th Amendment if he didn't go. She's the person. She had to get all the campaign money transferred over to her, or rather kept by her, not transferred to her. And here you are. They pulled a coup. That's it. Never got a vote. But, he got his 14 million. She got none. And all of a sudden, she's the candidate. She has the great advantage of coming in, being able to run out the clock with people not really knowing who she is. So from a campaign strategy on their part, it actually is a brilliant strategy to say, he sucks, he sucks, he sucks. I'm not giving interviews. He sucks, he sucks, he sucks. Oh, he's mean. Oh, mean tweets. He sucks. He's a racist. Blah, 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 blah. And not ever having to say, because no media is really going to ask her. I mean, she's done 2 interviews, really. And the debate she did might as well have just been a campaign, platform with, David Muir and, Davis up there asking her questions. So, she's at 49 days now to run out the clock. And that's exactly their plan. Can we have somebody become the president of the United States without ever really being scrutinized by the American public? The answer is yes. We did it in 2020 with Biden in his basement. Why would anybody think that couldn't happen again in 2024? Because she doesn't have the COVID excuse? Yeah, great. She doesn't have the COVID excuse. But it's very clear. She will not stop and answer reporters' questions. She just won't. Gets off a plane, walks into wherever she's going into. No reporters' questions. She waves. She pretends she's on her phone as she's walking up the steps to the plane, all of that stuff. Their strategy is very clear what it's going to be. That's why they had to work out the debate format and the questions. And don't ask these 3 things. Do ask these 6 things. Make them all against Trump, all that sort of stuff. I mean, she didn't say anything of substance. I don't know that she actually... I think she has opinions on all of these things. She doesn't want to say them because she'd get roasted for them. She's not moronic. she's shrewd enough to say to herself, and inside her inner circle of her campaign, she's shrewd enough to say, don't let people know this is what we think. Well, what are we going to say? Well, we can either lie and change every policy we've ever had, which let's try that, or say nothing, hide out, avoid the press as much as possible, but do not say we support fracking. We're going to bring in another 10 or 12 million illegal immigrants. We're going to jack up, send inflation through the roof again. We're going to ban fracking. We're going to wipe out America's energy independence to whatever degree we have it right now. We're going to make sure the American independence energy movement never rises again. It's all about climate change. There's so many things she can't say. So she either has to lie, which she's doing, or say nothing, which she's also doing. So
correct.
I've been doing this. This is my 10th presidential election cycle, 10th that I've been involved in. I thought the Biden circus stole the show. That is nothing compared to what we're seeing right now. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, and if the election is about Trump, she could very well win this thing. If the election is about the issues, Trump should run away with this thing if it's about the issues. But they have effectively made Trump the issue. I mean, look, folks, we give it to you straight. We're very much Donald Trump supporters on this network. But over the last 10 days or so, this election's been about Donald Trump. And that is not a strategy. When you want a change election, which 73% do, then that is not a way to do it. And you know what, Gary? These are the same people running this campaign. They're just sitting back saying, well, hey, it worked for Joe Biden, and she's a hell of a lot smarter than he is. So, let's deviate from it slightly, but let's just basically keep her hidden too. And even some of her own supporters, Charlemagne the God comes out and says those answers were scripted and she's got to, talk off the cuff. And I'm almost in her camp. I'm saying, why? What she's doing is sort of working. Gary, we got about a minute left. Should Trump do that second debate? I mean, given where this thing is right now, or should he pass on that and go directly to the voters?
It depends. Well, I think he should do both. I think he should do a second debate if it's not sort of that lion's den setup he went into before. Right. I would also insist I'll do the debate, but every single contact between both camps at the same time must be made public. Public can listen in, they don't have to participate, can listen in on the conference calls of how we're setting everything up. It's completely transparent behind the scenes, and then we move on from there. I think if that's the case, absolutely. If of course, she's not going to agree to that. But I think Trump should do a second debate. I think he's a smart fellow. He's made billions. He kind of gets it. He didn't do as well as he probably should have done in the first debate. Of course, he's debating three people. It's I think it would be to his advantage to do another debate, and I think they should talk about the format of the debate being an actual debate. One of them gets a 5-minute opening statement, the other gets a 3-minute rebuttal, you get a 2-minute rebuttal back to that, and then they go at each other, and the moderators simply moderate. You have 30 seconds left, you have 10 seconds left, and move on. He would mop the floor with her.
Speaking of seconds left, I'm out of time, but Gary, I want to thank you for coming on today. Great insight. And folks, if you watch the rerun, listen to those questions he posed. Boy, we need some answers to those. All right, that's it for today. Be back tomorrow, Election Edge. See you on Wednesday.